What's the worst case of injustice you've seen? My little brother has severe asthma, one bad attack, and he can't even finish a sentence without gasping for air, so his emergency inhaler goes everywhere with him. Last year during gym class, someone stole it from his locker. I didn't know any of this until I got a text from him that simply said, "I can't breathe." I left my class and ran to the nurse's office. My brother was sitting on the floor, wheezing so hard his face had turned gray. The nurse looked panicked. She whispered, "Someone took his inhaler, and the office still hasn't called an ambulance." I couldn't believe it. "Why not?" The nurse looked embarrassed. "The principal says they need to confirm it's a real emergency first." A real emergency? The kid with diagnosed asthma turning blue on the floor wasn't enough proof? Then one of my brother's friends walked in. He looked terrified. "I know who took it," he said quietly. "The principal's son. He was showing it to everyone in the locker room and pretending it was a toy gun." I saw red. I marched straight to the office. The vice principal pulled up the hallway camera footage. There it was, crystal clear. The principal's son opening my brother's locker, taking the inhaler, then holding it over his head while his friends laughed. I pointed at the screen. "There, that's him." The vice principal barely glanced at it. "The video quality isn't great." I stared at her. "What?" She shrugged. "Teenage boys joke around. Maybe your brother misplaced it." I couldn't even process what I was hearing. I pointed at the screen again. "He's literally waving the inhaler around." She folded her arms. "Without the inhaler present, we can't prove he stole anything." At that exact moment, my brother started coughing so hard in the nurse's office that I could hear it from down the hallway. I pulled out my phone and called my dad. He used to be an EMT. Now he works as an investigative reporter for the local news station. I don't think I've ever heard him drive so fast. 10 minutes later, the front doors burst open. My dad walked in carrying his old medical bag. Behind him were two cameramen. The office staff immediately stood up. My dad didn't even look at them. He went straight to my brother, checked his breathing, and his face went cold. Then he turned around. "If my son stops breathing because the school refused to call an ambulance, every person in this office will be explaining that on tonight's news." Nobody said a word. One of the cameramen started filming. My dad looked directly at the principal. "You have exactly 5 minutes to find that inhaler." The principal suddenly looked like he might throw up. He disappeared into his office. Less than 2 minutes later, his son came walking down the hallway, holding the inhaler. No apology, no tears, nothing. He actually rolled his eyes and said, "I found it in the bathroom." My dad took the inhaler from his hand and looked at him. "Really? Then why does it still have my son's name sticker on it?" The kid had no answer. The cameras were still rolling. You could hear a pin drop. My brother used the inhaler and finally started breathing normally again. I thought it was over. It wasn't. My dad filed a police report. Then he aired the entire story. The footage, the school's refusal to call an ambulance, the excuses, everything. Parents in our town were furious. Turns out this wasn't the first time the principal's son had bullied other kids and gotten away with it. Within a month, the school board voted in a new policy. Tampering with medical devices would mean immediate expulsion and possible criminal charges. The principal's son became the first student in district history to be expelled under that rule. And the principal, he resigned before the investigation even finished. The craziest part? A year later, another student had an asthma attack during recess. Because of the new policy, staff called an ambulance immediately and that kid survived. So whenever people ask me about the worst injustice I've ever seen, I tell them this. A boy stole my brother's inhaler for a joke, but his punishment ended up saving someone else's life.